In this video, we're going to learn to represent rates and unit rates in multiple ways. So you can see from your packet, a rate is a special type of ratio. So a rate is a ratio where we're multiplicatively comparing two different types of units. So in past examples, we might have compared blue fish to total fish, but we were comparing fish to fish. We might have compared gobstoppers to Smarties, but we were comparing candy to candy. Here we're going to see we're comparing different types of units, and I'll outline that more as we go. So a rate is a ratio. It's a special type of ratio with two different units. And a unit rate we're going to see is a rate where we work with a denominator of 1. And we're going to find that very useful. So let's go ahead and fill in this chart. Lainey ate 4 cookies for a total of 200 calories. So let's write some of these rates. The rate in calories per cookie. So frequently with rates we use the word per, and the word per is going to indicate the following unit is what goes in the denominator. So it's in, just like a ratio would say calories to cookies, with rates we say calories per cookies. So here we'd have 200, and I'm going to label the units, calories per 4 cookies. Okay. And we could write 200 over 4 calories over cookies. Okay. And again, this is the numeric component, and these labels are telling us what type of units we're comparing. So again, they're very useful, and we read this as calories per cookies. Now for a unit rate, we want to make this denominator 1. Now it's nice that there are 200 calories for 4 cookies, but it would be very nice to know how many calories there are per 1 cookie. So here is what we're going to do. We're going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by the number in the denominator to make the denominator 1. So 200 divided by 4 is 50. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Okay. Now notice this is equivalent to the division problem 200 divided by 4. So you can actually just divide 200 by 4 to get your 50. Now let's put in the units. So it's 50 calories for 1 cookie, which we will then write as 50 calories per cookie. Okay. So notice this rate language. Okay. Many times in a unit rate we stop using the number 1 because in this case it's 50 over 1, but this is referring to the number of calories for 1 cookie. Okay. Now we're going to look at the rate in cookies per calories. So again, this is going to give us the reciprocal, but it's a different way of looking at the comparison. So we have 4 cookies over 200 calories. Okay. So, we're just finding the rate. We haven't found the unit rate yet. And we could write this as 4 over 200 cookies per calories. Calories is plural at this point because we haven't found a unit rate. So notice again, here they're reciprocals. Now let's find the unit rate. Now here's the idea. So we have 4 over 200, okay, and we could do this division. Let's look at this on the calculator and write it as a decimal. 4 divided by 200. We get 0.02. .02 cookies per calorie. So let's think about what this means. This means if you want to eat 1 calorie worth of cookies, you can eat 2/100ths of a cookie. Okay? So this decimal is useful, and lots of times we'll use decimals when we're working with these problems, but I also want to write this another way. Now we want to think of it as per 1 cookie, but dividing by 200, notice, would just give us the equivalent fraction. So let's just simplify this fraction and write it as 1 over 50. And now instead of thinking of this, okay, as 1 calorie or 1 cookie per 50 calories, to think of it as a unit rate, bear with me, you're not going to like it, but it's almost over. I sound like a dentist. Think of the 150 as the number of cookies over 1 calorie. So we can say that this is 1/50th cookies per calorie. Okay. So now this is the fraction of a cookie per 1 unit of calorie. Okay. So this is going to be a useful way to think of it as well. We're thinking of the 50 in the denominator as not the number of calories, but 1 over 50 as the fraction of a cookie that gives us 1 calorie. Okay. So notice, compared to the unit rate of calories per cookie, it's just the reciprocal, and that's going to be useful for us too. Here's another example where we're going to be comparing miles per hours. Miles with hours. You're going to be familiar with this situation from driving and the concept of speed. So Alexis went on a road trip to California. She traveled at a constant speed and drove 434 miles in 7 hours. Okay, so we want to find her rate in miles per hours. So miles per hours is measuring speed. Okay, so notice this is an interesting idea because we're going from thinking about miles, which is distance, hours, which is time, but when we compare them multiplicatively, when you're driving and you look at your speedometer, it's measuring how fast you're going or the speed of your car, which is a completely different thing to measure. So it's relating both miles and hours. So let's write the rate, 434. We often use MI for miles, and over 7 hours, and we use HR for hours. So 434 over 7 miles per hour. Now to write this as a unit rate, I'm going to do this division. So let's divide 434 by 7, and we get 62. So 434 miles over 7 hours. If we divide, we get 62 miles per 1 hour. So this is a unit rate, which is 62 miles per hour. Okay. Again, so when we write our final unit rate, we frequently leave out the fact that it's 1 hour and that it's even a ratio or a rate that we have a numerator and a denominator. Now what if we look at hours per miles? Okay, and this may seem weird. Here we were looking at speed, so what is hours per miles? Well, we can flip our fraction, so it would be 7 hours for 434 miles. Okay, and now let's use the division we already used to make our unit rate. Okay, so 7 hours per 434 miles. Actually, so notice we're writing the numbers separate and we're thinking of these as our units, and we're writing that next to it, hours per mile. Okay. And if we simplify this, okay, which I don't even want to do by hand, but I know from here it would be 1 over 62 hours per mile. Okay, so remember we could divide this on the calculator. It's not going to give us the fraction though, it's going to give us a decimal, so about 0.016 hours per mile. But in this case, I think it's more useful to see the reciprocal and think about the meaning of this. Okay. So this means this is telling you how many hours it will take for you to drive 1 mile. Okay. So it'll take you 1 out of 62 hours to drive 1 mile. Okay. So if you think about that, since there's 60 minutes in an hour, if you're going 62 miles an hour, it's going to take you a little bit less than 1 minute to drive a mile, and that's what this is telling you. Okay, so it's another way of thinking about this relationship. And let's look at one last one. April bought a bottle of ibuprofen at the store. She bought 300 pills for $6.30. So we can think of how many pills per dollar. So it's 300 pills for $6.30. That's our rate in pills per dollar. Now this one I am going to do on the calculator because it already has decimals in it. To write the unit rate, we're going to divide 300 by 6.3 and we get this fraction, and we're going to approximate this. So this means 300 pills over $6.30. We want to write this over $1, and I forgot that number. Let's go to 2 decimal places, 47.62. 47.62 pills. So what this means is when she bought this number of pills at this price, she got 47.62 pills approximately for every dollar she spent. Okay, so that's one way to think about this situation. Now let's think about the rate in dollars per pills. We're going to flip this. This would be $6.30 per 300 pills. And now as a unit rate, okay, we could reciprocate that, but again, when we get decimals, it's a good idea to use the calculator. So now I'm going to divide 6.30 by 300. That will make the denominator 1. So 6.3 divided by 300, and we have 0.021, and notice that's in dollars, 0.021. Okay, and since it terminated, I'll put the 1 in there anyway. So remember, this is hundredths of a dollar, so this represents pennies. So it's about 2.1 cents per pill. So now we have 2 interpretations of this situation, both that were useful. Okay, well, how many pills do you get for $1? 47.62. Okay, how much does it cost per pill? About 2 cents, actually 2.1 cents or $0.021.